coming from the northwest direction, but a very, very good crowd today under overcast conditions, a high wind blowing straight across the ground, actually coming from the northwest direction. But we're looking forward to wonderful entertainment with Port Melbourne and Coburg participating in the 1980 Grand Final. We have some excellent features for you today, including the masked pipe bands with the marching girls before the main match commences, and also at half-time we'll run the final of the Dandy Dollar Dash, in which the winner will receive over $9,000 in cash. It is the world's richest foot race. We'll have parachute jumpers, wind permitting of course, coming in at half-time and presenting the cheque for over $9,000 to the winner of the Dandy Dollar Dash. Well, you can hear the barracas in the background, and we have the seconds grand final going on at the present time, and it won't be long before that's over. If we just can check the scoreboard now to see how the scores are, with Port Melbourne on top. Port Melbourne 16-18, leading Coburg 10 goals 13 in the closing of the seconds grand final. At this stage, we welcome to our telecast for today Bill Jacobs, Ted Henrys and Ian Gibbs. And first of all, over to Bill Jacobs for your selection for the big one today, Bill.
Well, good afternoon, Phil, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tip Port Melbourne to win today. They're betting 4-1 Coburg here, and they're good odds, but I think Port Melbourne will win for the express reasons, or the same reasons as I gave during their semi-final. I think Port will be too good in the air. Their small men will match those of Coburg, and they have the edge in determination, and more particularly the edge in form, having won 3 out of 3 this year. So Port Melbourne to win the grand final.
Well, I might mention at this stage we're right in front of Port supporters where we're stationed. We did intend to be out on the ground, but as you know, the match is still in progress and we can't get out there. But right now we have the helicopter going overhead and taking a shot of the good crowd that's here for the VFA Grand Final, and you'll see some of these shots coming up when we introduce our masked bands and the marching girls, and also in a few moments we'll have the masked pipe bands marching down the street from the Fitzroy Street down past the ground and into the arena here at the Junction Oval. But now, Ted Henrys, good afternoon to you and your selection for today's Grand Final.
Good afternoon, Phil, and good afternoon, viewers. Well, I think Port Melbourne's an 8-goal better side than Coburg here today. 8-goal better side. On what I've seen so far, the only thing in Coburg's favour today will be the wind, because I think that will hamper the high-flying players of the Port Melbourne side, and I refer to Anderson, Allenden, O'Reilly, and also Fred Cook. But I think the game could be won from the bench, Phil. Coach Colin Kinnear has got everything in his favour today with its wind blowing the way it is, but I'll still have to stay with Port Melbourne, and I think that they will win convincingly.
All right, and the final scores in the seconds game: Port Melbourne 16-19 defeated Coburg 10 goals 13. Ian, let's have statistics on today's big game and the last time these teams met.
Well, statistically, Coburg have a lot to prove today. In the last 19 games these two teams have met, Port Melbourne have won on 16 occasions. Now for season 1980, in the first round played at Coburg, Port Melbourne had a 12-point victory over Coburg. Port Melbourne 22 goals 12, 144. Coburg 19 goals 18, 132. In the second round played out at Port Melbourne had a victory of 33 points. Port Melbourne 19 goals 24, 138. Coburg 16 goals 9, 105. In the second semi-final played here at the Junction Oval, Port Melbourne had a 50-point victory. Port Melbourne 22 goals 18, 150. Coburg 15, 10, 100. I think Port will be too strong today again.
Righto. Well, as we said, the cheer squad, everybody's here from Port Melbourne, and of course we have some great Coburg supporters here today, and Rob Asprey will be talking with them a little later on as our bands march to the ground. But speaking of Rob Asprey, he's out in the centre of the ground now to give us a ground report, a weather report, and also your selection, Rob, for today's big match.
Yes, thank you, Phil, and good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as regards the ground conditions, they're absolutely superb, and I must say congratulations to the ground manager here at the Junction Oval. The centre is very, very hard, very, very firm, and the ground itself is, well, in magnificent condition. Out here, the wind is not very gusty, but it does, I notice if you get out on the flanks, depending on where it's coming through the stands, it is gusting to what we call the Fitzroy Street end. Of course, the other end is the lake end or the city end. and I would imagine the team that wins the toss will kick to the Fitzroy Street end where the wind appears to be favouring, but it is quite gusty. My selection, well, I'm going to get myself into trouble. I'm going to go for Port Melbourne, only because I believe you have to. When you look at the record, well, Port Melbourne have won on 3 occasions this year that the sides have met. So it's my tip, Port Melbourne to win. Well, that's about all at the moment from the centre of the ground. Very shortly we'll be back with the toss of the coin.
Years with the VFA, and Frank McGoner, 6 years. The emergency umpire is Bill Tawney. The boundary umpires, Colin Walker, with his 7th grand final coming up, and Ian Barnes. The goal umpires, Andy Craig and Brian Jones. The emergency is Bruce Bartlett. And the umpires, board representatives, Ross Raphael and Ken Andrews. And now stars of today's big game. First of all, led by their captain and coach, Gary Bryce, Port Melbourne. And gentlemen, the opponents for Port Melbourne today for the big grand final, they're led by their captain, Ron Beattie, Coburg.
Tunes of their club songs.
Ted, an amazing atmosphere. It's certainly stirring.
Well, it certainly is. It certainly stirred me, Rob. You get that tingle up and down the spine, and it's certainly inspiring. A magnificent opening for this grand final of 1980 here today, and those girls looked absolutely marvellous, didn't they? The way they were marching around there on those magnificent shots from our helicopter.
Righto, Ted. Thank you very much. And now here again is Phil Gibbs.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to welcome the President of the VFA, Councillor Alex Gillen, OBE, JP. Councillor Gillen. We also ask the winner of the J.J. Liston Trophy, Stephen Allender of Port Melbourne, to please come forward. Stephen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand by for the national anthem. possession of the J.J. Liston to Stephen Allender.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Officials of the Coburg, Port Melbourne Football Clubs, VFA officials, distinguished visitors, ladies and gentlemen. It's again my pleasure to welcome you to our grand final, 1980, and to present the best and fairest, the J.J. Liston Trophy Medal to the winner for 1980. My great pleasure today, of course, to do so to Stephen Allender of the Port Melbourne Football Club. Stephen is one of our youngest winners. He joined the Port Melbourne Football Club in 1978, played with the seconds and the thirds, progressed in 79 into the first and has played 20 games. It's a great meritorious performance indeed that he should succeed so quickly in the Victorian Football Association. He's been an ornament of the game, an ornament to Port Melbourne, that club of such great tradition in the VFA, and I hope that he will be many years' service to the Victorian Football Association and to the Port Melbourne Football Club. In making this presentation of the J.J. Liston Medal, of course, I'd like to point out to you, Stephen, that it admits you to life to any game the Victorian Football Association participates. I hope that you'll take full advantage of that privilege. I congratulate you indeed on such a wonderful year, and hope, as I said previously, that you do give Port Melbourne many years of service.
This is a bonus, it's just a medal, but we're here today for one thing, and that's to win the flag.
Right, Stephen Allender, and we now ask the 1980 Liston winner and the two captains, plus the J Field winner, Kevin Sate of Yarraville, the top trophy winner, Charlie Daniels of Port Melbourne, and the Disher trophy winner, Anthony Cook of Yarraville, to do their lap of honour. All right, boys, you can now break and get underway with the game. And while the players do their lap of honour, we ask all those on the arena to leave their positions for the playing of the 1980 Grand Final and
Being ready now for the toss of the coin. The umpires this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, are Roy Groom and Frank Pagona. And Roy, if you could go across and get the captains, we'll do the all-important toss of the coin. For those fans in the stands listening to us at the moment, the wind is gusting to the Fitzroy Street end, and I would imagine the side that wins the toss will kick to the Fitzroy Street end. The conditions are absolutely magnificent here at the Junction Oval. Very, very hard out in the centre of the ground. In fact, you could almost play cricket, I think. And the outer flanks are very firm also. If we can have the respective captains over here now, please, for the toss of the coin, Gary Bryce and Ron Beattie. Ron Beattie and Gary Bryce, if we could have you over now with Roy Groom for the toss of the coin. For our viewers at home, we have a very good crowd. The stands are absolutely packed, and certainly a tremendous atmosphere for the First Division VFA Grand Final. Two great sides, great rivals, Coburg and Port Melbourne. Gary Bryce coming across now. Ron Beattie. Roy, good luck for today's game. There's the 20 cents. Who will do the call?
Coburg will do the call.
Coburg will do the call. Ron Beattie will call. They shake hands. The umpire says good luck. Heads has been called. And tails it is. Port Melbourne have won the toss and will kick to the Fitzroy Street end of the ground, favoured by that gusty wind.
And we have the players taking up their positions. Rob Asprey's coming up to the commentary position, so we'll take this break. To counteract as far as Coburg are concerned. All right, little umpire Frank Pagona comes in for the bounce of the ball, and there it goes. Oh, and Milroy went very high, went over the top of Amundsen, and Amundsen gets the free kick. There's been two changes, Ted.
Yes, Beattie's gone to full-back for Coburg on Fred Cook, and John Douglas picked at full-back, is in the ball's forward pocket.
All right, and Port Melbourne into attack, up towards Allender. Fred Cook has the ball, squeezes it around, takes a shot for goal, and he's put it through for full points. Well, that's within 25 seconds after the commencement of game. Cook leading out well from Beattie, who's down on Cook, and screwed it back over the shoulder to put it through. Well, and that's the excitement of our Port Melbourne supporters, and this is how it all happened.
Well, the first move of the match, Phil, has come undone.
I'll come undone to this stage, Ted, but let's see what happens as the game progresses. Those players were really shy-acking one another out there on the ground when they lined up for the presentation to lift the trophy. There's the Bayer getting it out to Swan. Swan getting it wide out towards the wing on the outer side of the ground. Albert was the player, number 2, pursuing the ball, but it's beaten him over the line. Good crowd here today for the VFA Grand Final. There's Milroy and Annanson. Annanson getting the big knockout. It came across in the direction of Curran. He couldn't get away with it. Comes up towards Terry Don't, the centre man at Coburg. He can't handle the ball. Swan also in there trying to control it. But you see the result. We remind you that there'll be a further big display at half-time for the pipe bands and also the running of the Dandy Dollar Dash today. Milroy going up with Annanson again pushes it out to the boundary line for a throw-in. Port Melbourne scoring first in the game 25 seconds after the commencement of play, scoring the 1 goal kicked by Fred Cook. We remind you that Robert Smith is going for his 100th goal today too in this grand final. There's Evans getting possession of the ball. Went for a Bayer, couldn't get through to a Bayer. Coming through with Cameron. He got grabbed pretty high around the neck and he gets the free kick. So this gives the chance for Coburg to get the ball into attack. Cameron now putting it on its way up towards the centre half forward zone. A stack of players there, and Annanson, how they're going to counter this player today, I don't know. Going up on his own to pull in the mark. So Annanson from centre half back towards the half forward line. This is a Coburg mark, and it's Brad Nimmo who's come in to take it. Nimmo not wasting any time though, plays it across ground, but the umpire's coming down. And what's happened there, Tim?
Well, there's a free kick awarded against the Coburg player, interfering with a Port Melbourne player there, Phil. So umpire Bagona did not pay the mark and called it back for a free kick to Port.
All right, well, we have umpire Roy Groom out here indicating the mark, and it's Grant O'Reilly. With the wind blowing against him, going by the paper on the ground, he set it up towards centre forward. Beatty goes high to knock it wide of the pack, out towards the boundary line, throw in the result. Play has been in progress 3 minutes into the first quarter. Port Melbourne 1 goal, Coburg yet to score. Throw in affected again. Up they go, and it's Nimmo with a good knockout from the ruck. Trying to knock it on again was Cameron. Couldn't do so. It comes through towards Collins, and Coburg defending desperately, but moving down here is Greg Dermott. It goes to the boundary line. The umpire says push in the back, and the free kick will be taken by Dermott. So Dermott from out on that flank has the chance to put it up towards Fred Cook once again. Cook in between 2 Coburg players down here in the full forward area. Will come out, try and back into the 2 players. Knocked away from him, but Goss scouting around. Cleverly gets the ball on its way towards centre forward. Cook couldn't quite get to it. Then it comes off Cook's hands to Nimmo. Nimmo with a further hand pass. He's looking for Burt. Burt gained possession now. Keeps it in the boundary line. Passes across here, but he's run too far. What does the boundary umpire say it was out? Boundary umpire coming up. It was out of bounds as he moved around the boundary line. Unlucky then for Coburg. They need this player firing too, Burt. Ruckman set themselves. Allender's going up, and he gained the knockout from the ruck. Nimmo misses the run of the ball. It comes through to Halbert. Halbert straight across ground. Not good football from Halbert. And there's Grant O'Reilly leading in the race for the ball. He'll be first there if he can get to it before it goes over the line. But there's the result. Pressure really on both teams. Coburg beaten last time they met, the last 3 times really. Grant O'Reilly got over the top of Saltmarsh, and I thought he might have given it to Saltmarsh. Well,
the way they were going for it looked like Saltmarsh's free kick.
Anyway, there's shades of yesterday. There's O'Reilly sending it up towards the forward zone, but it's been forced over the line again. Down on the forward zone for Port Melbourne, coming up to the 5-minute mark. In the first quarter, we have Port Melbourne 1 goal and Coburg yet to score. Bill.
Port Melbourne constantly in attack and still there in their left forward pocket. That was Milroy probably gaining the edge there down to Halbert. Halbert stuck in between forward pocket and the goalpost. He gets it out to the half-back flank, and Cameron's there to take the mark for Coburg. Coburg on the Olympic Tyres scoreboard have yet to score. Port Melbourne registered the only goal, that kicked by Cook, and we've played 5.5 minutes into the term. Annanson knocks down, taken under control by Swan, in trouble, but he's got it up towards the half-forward line, looking for a Bayer. Cameron knocks away, down to the ground in a packed form, and the umpire said it's holding the ball. And this full-throated crowd voicing their approval or otherwise. That's Terry Don't, the Coburg centre man, wearing the headband. And he comes across the half-back line, and across there he found Hartigan. Hartigan will go up, taking it out of the back line, giving it to Terry Don't, and through the centre he goes, up towards centre half forward Smith. Oh, they're all over Smith. knocked it away. Coburg going into attack. Bristow put in well for Port Melbourne there. And nobody can get the ball out until the umpire has found a free kick to Coburg at centre half forward. And they're kicking down to the lake end of the Junction Oval. Coburg through Burt, number 7. There he is, supported by Nimmo, number 17. Some words of encouragement, and it will be Burt. And I think he could just about kick the distance. There's his position, as you can see on the line. And he's kicking towards the lake end of the ground. He's got distance, but it's over the line and out of bounds to be thrown in. That's left forward pocket for Coburg, travelling to that lake end. They have yet to score. Port Melbourne have kicked a goal, which is registered on the Olympic Tyres scoreboard. Back into play. Bryce waiting for it at the back, number 4. And it's hit further afield to Swan. Then across to Bright. Interception by Herbert. Twisting and turning to get it to Halbert. Halbert will fire long. It's a little bit offline and not quite the distance. It's Smith. Smith for his 100th goal for the season. And he won't get an easier one. He is plumb in front, and here you see it on replay. Halbert getting it up towards Smith. There he is, and clasping the ball to his chest and lining them up. 10 metres, 15 metres out at the lake end. Should have no difficulty in kicking Coburg's first, his first, and his 100th for the season. And there it is, equalising on the Olympic Tyres scoreboard. 1 goal to Coburg, 1 goal to Port Melbourne. And Smith, look at that magnificent aerial shot from our cameras, beautifully directed. And there it is. Let it speak for itself.
Well, there are supporters coming from all parts of the ground, Bill, from the Fitzroy Street end, from the lake end, and this will take a few moments to clear up. But Robert Smith hasn't been playing in top form over the last 3 or 4 matches, and there he took a good strong mark in the goal square to put it through for his 100th and even the score in the VFA Grand Final. Now the spectators rather quick to leave the ground at the moment as we have a look at Robert Smith coming in for this mark once again. He comes out well, Ted.
Very well indeed. Positioned himself perfectly then, Phil, and I suppose it's poetic justice, or for the want of another term, that he kicked his 100th goal against Port Melbourne. Remembering the last match of the year, the home-and-home matches, Fred Cook kicked his 100th against Coburg.
Well, even members of the constabulary out there congratulating Robert Smith, the police horse. Well, for a moment I thought they were in trouble there because the crowd had it very, very edgy indeed. But there we have the players going back into the centre. Field umpire Bergona is there, ready for the bounce of the ball. And we're about to get underway again at the 8.5-minute mark with both sides even on 1 goal. Bill.
Some time delay there, of course. Umpire Bergona waiting for players to settle down as well as people getting off the ground. And some of the offenders are the members of Her Majesty's Police Force, taking some time.
Incidentally, both full forwards between them have kicked 209 goals this season.
It's a fair indication of the value of each player to his team. Well, now on the Olympic Tyres scoreboard, each team has kicked a goal. Time clock showing 9 minutes into the term, but there's a fair degree of time on, of course, because of the time taken when Smith kicked the goal. So there's the good bounce, a good centre bounce. Annanson successful. Burt looking a bit chirpier today, number 7 of Coburg, and the free kick is going the way of Burt. He's putting himself in front, and he's got the free kick, and they're pretty hot with these 15-metre penalties. You don't want to breathe over the mark. There's Burt coming out of the centre, across to the half-forward line. In front is Collins. He'll break away too long. Play on as the call. Cleary ducking into the pack. A little lucky. A little lucky to get it, Cleary.
At least he was heading for goals when he ducked, and I think that was in his favour, Bill. He was trying to make the play.
Well, it's one of those things. It's a 50-50 situation, I suppose, Teddy. But he ducked into it. And there's Cleary lining them up. There's his angle. You can see it quite clearly. His home post to the right of your screen, opening up into the goals now. And Cleary's kick is well directed, I think. It's another goal to Coburg.
Umpire Roy Groom for the bounce, and up goes Milroy. Tries to hook the ball in, but got into the back of Annanson, and he'll get the free kick. Got the right on the back now. Annanson gets it wide. He gets it out here towards Wilkinson. Wilkinson now looking for the lead, but elects to play it up towards centre half forward. Players move under the ball. Grant O'Reilly's in there. Punched down to the ground by Beattie. They're going for the big punch all the time, the Coburg players. Curran moves into it now, but also there is Evans of Port Melbourne, but they slip it over the line again for a throw in. This is at the Fitzroy Street end of the ground, the end of which Port Melbourne are kicking here in the first quarter. Stack of players around the ball as it comes back in again, and Milroy going for the knockout, gets it down to his little rover in Westcombe. Westcombe now upfield towards the half-back line, and that was a good mark taken. Looked as though it was Halbert. Halbert on the half-back flank. Looks for the lead. They're playing well at the moment, Coburg. That's Halbert's fourth kick as he sends it towards the half-forward line. Into the back goes Annanson, and the free kick will be taken by Douglas. Douglas towards Robert Smith, who clocked nicely and juggles the ball right out at centre half-forward. Robert Smith marking well. He could be a contender for our Gillette mark of the day before it's over, Ted.
Well, he certainly could, fellas. No doubt he's in far better form now than he has been over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Kicking with the wind behind him as he comes in to kick towards the lake end of the ground. So Robert Smith keeps it nice and low. It's a long kick that might not get the distance. It comes off the hands of the pack, back in towards centre half-back. Christo comes out from the pocket. He sends it out to his brother in John Christo. That was Jim kicking it. So John Christo to relieve the pressure for the Port Melbourne side at the 12.5-minute mark. He puts it onto the wing on the outer side of the ground. Players move into it. Going up was Evans. He's got the run on the ball at the moment, but it beats him over the line, and the throw-in to be effected again. We have Coburg on 2 goals straight. Port Melbourne on 1 goal. Good kicking in these very windy conditions. Again, it comes back into play. Milroy and Annanson having a torrid tussle out there, but it comes wide of the pack now, and bearing in on the ball is Swan. Couldn't handle it. He got one hand to it, and then trying to get the other one around, forced it over the line. Wing position, outer side of the ground at the moment. Very high throw-in. Milroy leaping very high today. He seems to have gained another foot in spring as it comes down to Halbert. He turns around, kicks it back upfield towards the half-forward line. Collins slung to the ground. Trying to get through here is Johnson. Johnson out towards the wing. Milroy's the player to trap the ball for Coburg. Milroy towards that half-forward line. And it comes through in the direction this time of Dermott. Dermott now will relieve the pressure. He had nowhere to go. Gets the hand pass in to Gary Bryce. Bryce now from the half-back line towards the wing on the outer side of the ground. Look at the players go down. It went over their heads and over the line and out of bounds. Rob Asprey.
Yes, Phil, a great opening to this grand final match here at the Junction Oval between 2 great sides, Coburg and Port Melbourne. And at the 13.5-minute mark, it's Port Melbourne 1 goal, Coburg leading there 2 goals. Just 6 points or 1 kick the difference. There's the throw-in. Players going in for the ball. It's Goss who's got the front run, but it's over the line, and another throw-in will be effected. Well, I would imagine that Colin Kinnear would be very pleased that Robert Smith has got that 100th goal behind him. There's the throw-in. Amundsen gets the tap down, but it's picked up by Coburg. They drive forward towards the half-forward flank position on the outer side of the ground. Going in, getting the front position is Dermott. He gets his kick in, but it's over the line and out of bounds. Big crowd here. What would you estimate the crowd, Phil?
I'd say in the vicinity of about 25,000 today.
Yes, a very good crowd. I think VFA would be very pleased with this crowd, and I think the crowd was, I have no doubts the crowd were thrilled with the pre-match presentation. There's the throw-in again. It's Milroy from behind, but it's Annanson who gets the tap down. It's Bird again who sharks the ball, gets it across to a teammate, Collins it is, who was met very heavily about 5 minutes ago into play. There's his kick. Going down towards the full forward position. Robert Smith out in front. Can he take it? It's knocked away from him very close to the boundary line and out of bounds. Only about 12, 14 metres. 12 to 14 metres around from the behind post for Coburg. And the play would be sheltered there by this gusty wind to the scoreboard. There's the throw-in. Players sitting themselves, coming from behind. No one gets advantage now. It's picked up by Swan. He gets the ball across to his teammate Goss. He handballs to Johnson going past, but Johnson is content to handball over the line and out of bounds. Coming up to the 15.5-minute mark, there's only 1 kick the difference. Coburg 2 goals, Port Melbourne 1 goal. There's the throw-in, only about 15 metres away from goal. Players knock the ball behind the pack, picked up by Halbert. Halbert gets it in right into the scoring zone for Coburg, but it's Neil O'Neill who defends for Port Melbourne, getting the ball out to the half-back flank position, over the line and out of bounds.
And I'll tell you what, with that opening today, it is sweet, VFA.
Well, you can't top that. What do you say, Phil? If you've got a mouth, use it.
I've always said if you've got a big mouth, Rob, you've got to use it.
All right. There's the throw in. The big pack of players going up. Collins gets the ball out. Again, it's very close to the boundary line. In fact, out of bounds. Well, it seems to be the tactics to play that flank. Coburg kicking to the Lake end of the ground, and Port Melbourne winning the toss, kicking to the Fitzroy end. Oh, a big punch down there, picked up by Coburg, driving into the full forward position. It's Smith, and Smith has been paid the free kick. Oh, yes, it was very clear, too. He was held there, held by the hand. And players aren't too happy about that, Ted.
Now, well, Gary Bryson, that is going up to the umpire, Roy Groom, then complaining about that decision. Have a look at it yourself.
Yeah,
Actually, I think the Port Melbourne player was held.
Tactics.
Robert Smith now, almost directly in front, about 16 metres out from goal. Concentration all over his face. There's the kick now. Umpire moves right across. Has he made it? No, a bad miss there, Ted.
Well, it was a bad miss because Robert Smith much closer to goal than probably what he was before, and there was no excuse for missing that one. He's over his nervous 90s now. He's got his 100th on the board. He should have got that one.
Yes, and I still think that he was hanging on to the Port Melbourne player, and so do you.
Yes, I agree. After watching that replay, Phil, there's no doubt about that. The free kick should have gone the other way, and I believe the crowd thought that way too.
Well, not only was justice seen to be done, Ted, evidently it was. All right, we have coming out here for Port Melbourne, Terry O'Neill. O'Neill towards the half-back line, a mark wide at the centre of the ground by Johnson. Johnson was about to take off, but the umpire gives him the benefit of the doubt. A bit of burbling going on out there, and the umpire has applied the 15-metre penalty on Coburg. Johnson's kick towards centre half-forward. Grant O'Reilly pushed his opponent in the back, and umpire Bergona down here, and he immediately whistles up play, and it'll be Saltmarsh to go back and take the free kick. So Saltmarsh from centre half-back gets the lead on the stand wing, then decides to go for the hand pass to Milroy. Milroy across to Curran. Curran fumbling, is tackled by Little Abaya. He'll lose the ball to Anderson, but no, it's Goss who comes in. Goss with a long hand pass. Punched away here by Terry Cameron of Coburg. He gets a further hand pass in. It comes to Bud Douglas. Douglas now up towards Collins on the half-forward line, but it's out of bounds on the full. So it'll be a free kick being taken by Dermott of Port Melbourne on the half-back line, outer side of the ground. Port Melbourne struggling a bit in this early stage of the game. They've been playing 18 and a half minutes, wide of the centre, and Grant O'Reilly to take the mark. He's a prolific mark taker, O'Reilly, in VFA football. Comes up towards Allender. Allender too far under the ball. This gives Cook the run on it, tapped away here by Bird. Oh, well played, Bird. As it comes out towards the half-back line, Bird is hurt. As it comes through here towards the boundary line, and there will be a throw-in. Bill Cleary was the player pursuing it. Burt brushing off the trainer as he went out. Allender tried to mark it, comes through to Bryce. Bryce back to Goss. Goss turns around, spears it up towards centre forward, and Grant O'Reilly moves across to take the mark. He's only about 20 metres out from goal, right in front. Coburg 2-1-13. Port Melbourne 1 goal straight. It's his fourth kick. And it's his first shot for goal. As he lines them up, one needed by Port Melbourne. Puts it on its way for the Burrows, and the goal umpire moves right across. It's a minor score.
Towards Christo, Jim Christo there, couldn't control it, but coming through strongly was Saltmarsh to get rid of the ball, but it's on half-forward line. Swan in possession. Port Melbourne struggling a little bit. He's dropped the shortener across to Abaya.
Port Melbourne players are wearing black armbands.
Yes, Phil, it's in honour of Vic Anderson's grandmother, who passed away, and also a great supporter of Port Melbourne in Frank Barnett.
Dermott, number 25, knocking it out of bounds, as you can see. And Coburg on 2-1, leading Port Melbourne 1-1 on the Olympic tyre scoreboard. And the umpiring a little bit technical, I think. They're umpiring as if they're waiting or trying to beat something happening. It's out of the pack. That's Halbert with the yellowish boots breaking away and getting it up to the half-forward line. And Douglas, who's doing pretty well up there, has taken it under control to kick the full forward. Smith in front again. This time O'Neill knocks it away. Smith again off the ground. O'Neill chipping in and coming away as Herbert. Herbert will drop the short one in, but it's intercepted, well intercepted by Dermott, who can't kick with his left foot, and he hand passes up towards the half-back line. It's Halbert with it under control, and Halbert's kick towards O'Neill. O'Neill knocking down, picked up by Herbert into the goal square to Terry Dunk. That tells it all. It's another goal to Coburg. betting 4-1 Coburg before this game started, and there's your Olympic Tyres scoreboard, 3-1 to 1-1 with Coburg leading. They've opened better than Port Melbourne. That's a Bayer getting it out of the centre up towards the half-forward line. O'Reilly doing pretty well, but too slow there. Lucky to get away with it. He get it out in the direction of Evans. Evans looking for a Bayer, but good defence by Cameron. Takes it out of the back line. Over to centre wing. Dermott slashing wildly at the ball. Douglas proving a bit of a handful up there, and Coburg through Collins going into attack. The half-forward flank to the lake end, and he's kicked towards the goal square. Halbert slaps it through. It's going to be taken under control by Smith. And Smith is beating O'Neill. Let that be recorded. Smith is beating O'Neill because he's in front of him all the time, and O'Neill's struggling against that great bulk of Smith.
Yes, Smith is outfoxing him, Bill.
It's 3-2 to 1-1. 20 points to 7, if you like it better that way, with Coburg leading and Port scratching their heads a little bit at this stage. That's O'Neill right down the centre of the ground. A chance for Christo, and it's Jimmy Christo racing through up to centre half forward. He's looking for the lead, and he gets it. Cook will back up quickly and up to hand pass. He's chosen the kick, and it's offline. 1 point only. Handball, what was required then. It was bad play by Cook. Got a player alone in the goal square.
Yes, and he had that right in front of him, and Fred Cook could see that player in front of him, and he should have handballed that one. A bad mistake.
Open kick-off comes out here towards Herbert. Herbert now from the back pocket. Right foots it in towards the centre of the ground. They rise high for it. There's a mark in the middle of the pack. It's Port Melbourne's Evans was tackled. He let one go. And it was also the big fellow John Douglas in there. Now the umpire has not only given the free kick, he's given the mark as well to Evans. He's applied a 15-metre penalty on Beattie. Douglas rather, as he comes in now for the kick up towards the centre forward zone. Cook too far under the ball, comes out here to be taken over the line by Hardigan. Nearly a thump in the mouth to Hardigan, but he rode the punch, and now the throw-in will come in. I was just saying to Rob Asprey a moment ago, Ted, that there could be a bit of frustration creeping into this game very soon. It's started.
Well, it certainly has started, Phil, and I think we'll see it with us all day.
Right over the ball they go. Ball up to be affected by umpire Roy Groom. It's only about 20 metres out from the Port Melbourne goal, as we have Port Melbourne on 1-2, Coburg 3-2, Rob.
Yes, there's the bounce now, very close to the Port Melbourne area. Milroy gets it down to Hardigan. Hardigan decides to take the ball across to the other side of the ground, but coming in is Wilkinson. He's caught, and holding the ball is the decision from umpire Roy Groom. And Burt will take the kick. He immediately decided to play on, but the umpire doesn't agree and has handed out a 15-metre penalty. A bit unlucky there because I really thought Burt was off. But we'll stick with the umpire. Burt decides to handball to Nimmo going past. He's knocking the ball along in front of him, over the line and out of bounds. And already you can see signs of a few altercations coming here, I would say, very, very shortly. And there's no doubt about it, I think the last home and away game of the year, these two sides met, and we said it was probably the best game all year, and it's certainly shaping up to be another one of the best games of the year. Milroy it is, right on the wing position out there for Coburg. There's his kick, caught by the wind. Going up very high is the Coburg player in Douglas. Douglas very close to the boundary line, received quite a bit of attention, keeps the ball very low as he directs it down to Robert Smith, but it beats him to the line and out of bounds. Now out on the full, in fact, the umpire has ruled, and O'Neill will take a kick. Has a bit of a look. There's the kick by O'Neill now, right back towards the wing position, very close. The pack goes up and forces it over the line and out of bounds. Port Melbourne, 1 goal. 2 behinds, 8 points. Coburg, 3 goals to 20, and we've now played 25 and a half minutes into the first quarter. It's Milroy who tries to get the ball, but it's sharked by Swan. Gets the ball down to the half-forward flank position on the outer side of the ground. Grabbing it is Saltmarsh, but he's forced over the line, out of bounds. Crowd still building here at the Junction Oval. We have a great crowd for the VFA Grand Final, and a great match on our hands up to this stage. I'd imagine that Coburg fans and coach Colin Kinnear are very pleased. There's the throw-in. Oh, Eleanor gets up very high, but it's sharked by Wescombe. He gets the ball back towards the centre of the ground. Coming in is Dermott for Port Melbourne. He gets across to Wilkinson, his teammate. Wilkinson goes for his kick right into the scoring zone, but it's out of bounds on the full, and the free kick will result.
Port Melbourne making a lot of mistakes up on their forward line, Rob, and that Coburg defence is playing very well.
Yes, all right, and here's Phil Gibbs.
Righto, Rob, and now Cleary moves into it. Cleary from the centre of the ground, shoots it up towards the half-forward line. Here's Herbert moving into the ball. He has the chance to break away, does it well with a bit of balking, sends it into open territory down in the left-forward pocket, and moving into it is Annanson. Nearly beat Annanson to the goal, but he's eventually forced it through, but one behind. So that takes Coburg on to 3-3 with Port Melbourne on 1-2. I must point out that in earlier matches the indication has been that is the favoured end of the scoreboard end of the lake end. And that's the end at which Coburg are kicking in this first quarter.
Well, you didn't give your selection before the game.
Coburg, Ted.
Well, you've changed.
On Port Melbourne, I said Port Melbourne all through the morning, and I still think they'll come out of it. But Coburg are playing very, very well indeed. Umpire has awarded a free kick to Phil Cleary, tripped in the pack. And there he comes with it now. The umpire blowing the whistle. The player came over the mark. Cleary very quickly pointing out to the umpire that this has happened. And there's the 15-metre penalty being applied by umpire Roy Groom. 28 minutes into the first term. And Cleary now keen to get on with the game. Robert Smith making the lead. Cleary sees it. Down it goes towards Smith, and he's let out beautifully to take the mark. He's playing with a lot of confidence. Tail up in the air. What was that, Ian?
Smith kicked 1 goal 1 today to take him to 100 goals for the season.
Right, he's coming in for his 101st, and a different Robert Smith we're seeing from that of the past few weeks. Coming in at an angle, the wind will assist him here because it'll come into the flight of the ball and help drag it in towards those goals. And this is a dangerous one for Port Melbourne. It's on its way. He's hooked it slightly, and it's gone through for one behind. It's in progress again, and here's Goss getting it away from the half-back line for Port Melbourne, up towards their half-forward line. No one able to take the mark. Pushed further afield by Curran. Curran turns, gets the hand pass in, but passes it over the line. Coburg 3-4-22. Port Melbourne 1-2-8. Ruckman set themselves. Allender up in the ruck. It's pushed away from him. Goes wide. Oh, it'll be a free kick in here in the middle of the pack. A knee in the back of the head. And it's Burt who went down. He's had two heavy tumbles. Once when he tried to take a mark. He's got the hand pass in wide. Gets it out towards Hartigan. Should have been a Port Melbourne player. Pick Hartigan up then too as it goes out towards the wing. Terry Don't, who's using a bit of speed on Swan. Swan can't catch him. He's tagged him now. But he passes across towards Westcombe. Westcombe turning. Left foots it towards centre half forward. The umpire blowing the whistle. You probably heard the comment from the Port bench. Yes. Robert Smith has been awarded a free kick further afield for interference back downfield. And there was no bull in that either as it goes up towards its right forward pocket, and the mark taken by Halbert coming in deep in the pocket right on the boundary line. So Halbert moving back for his 12th kick in the first quarter. That's some kicking, Ted.
That's a great first quarter. He's certainly playing like a champion in this opening of this big game here today. And that was a bad mistake by Vic Anderson then, Phil.
Halbert, among other Coburg smaller players, dictating the terms of this game. He is the best man on the ground, even if he'd had 8 kicks the way he's disposing of the ball. This one looks it might be through for a goal. That's 1 point only. Quarter time scores. Coburg 3 goals, 5-23, leading Port Melbourne 1 goal to 8 points on the Olympic Tyre scoreboard. Coburg putting Beattie at fullback gave them Douglas up on the forward line, and he gave them a tall focal point around the half-forward line, which they utilised pretty well. I'll be interested to hear his statistics. Smith was too good for O'Neill in that quarter. He played in front, and the message all through the Coburg team was that they were playing in front. They also seemed to pick up a little bit in bite from the last time that I saw them, and their smaller men were too good for the Port Melbourne small men in that quarter. Port didn't get their high-marking game working in that quarter, and all in all it belonged to Coburg, and they've established a lead of 15 points, which is useful but not all that convincing at this stage of the game.
Ted Henrys.
Well, Phil, no doubt Coburg has surprised everyone, including myself, on their great opening here today, but I felt they had to open well if they want to get on top. Their dedication is much greater than Port Melbourne's out on that ground today, and their back line is frustrating the Port Melbourne forwards into errors, and we saw plenty of those in that first quarter. They're moving the ball much better, Coburg, and Halbert, the player, has already been mentioned. He's in the thick of things out there, and Coburg's smaller men are playing definitely better than Port Melbourne's at this stage.
Phil, well, Gary Bryce, the Port Melbourne coach, gave his players one hell of a blast. That's the best way to describe it. He said the forward line was far too crowded. He said that Coburg were beating Port Melbourne in the desperation department, and he said there's far too many players in for a ride and taking it too easy. Coburg coach just walking past us at the moment. Kyle, can we just have you just for a second? You must have been delighted with that. Surprised everyone.
Delighted? No.
Well, the desperation is tremendous.
Yeah, we've got to be desperate in grand finals, Rob. You know, it's one quarter. That's, you know, this one's the next one. We've got to look at it that way.
Right. Could be won and lost this quarter?
Well, you know, it could be won and lost in any minute. You know, we can't afford to lack concentration for 1 second.
Kyle, players like Milroy and Smith, players who have been down against Port Melbourne, are really firing today. That must make you pleased.
We're doing all right at this stage, Rob, yes. At this stage, they're doing very well. But they're expected to. They're senior players. They're playing in the grand finals. They're not going to give it today. They're never going to give it.
OK, right. Thanks very much, Colin Kinnear. And there's a man who's got a lot at stake today, but typically modest. Colin Kinnear. And if Coburg win today, he's one bloke who'll take a lot of the credit. We're going to have a great second quarter. There's no doubt about that. That's what the coach has said, Phil.
Well, a typical modest statement then from Rob Asprey as he's making his way up to the commentary position. We have the umpires getting ready to get the game underway for the second quarter. And here we go. Umpire Roy Groom coming in for the bounce. And there it goes. Not a good bounce either. Goes well wide, but Anderson gets the knockout from the ruck. It goes out towards Evans. Evans to a Bayer out towards Allender on the half-forward line. He's being tackled by Brad Nimmo. Is pushed right to the boundary line, and there's the result. Coburg 3-5-23. Port 1-2-8. Incidentally, the Liston winner hasn't had a kick yet, Allender. He's been doing a lot of tap rucking, but there it goes into the middle of the pack. Comes out now. There he is with a kick, Allender, putting it on its way towards centre forward. And Fred Cook strongly in front takes the mark. He walks back like Clark Gable as he gets ready for his kick, and there goes the shot towards Cook. Marks it rather strongly in front of the full-back as he gets ready now to line them up. He's kicked one goal so far. That was at 25 seconds after the ball was bounced. On its way, and it's hit the post. Well, Port Melbourne go to 1-3, 9 points. So Coburg 3 goals, 5 behinds, a total of 23. Well, there's Beattie, who wasn't picked up then, taking the mark. He gets it across here towards his teammate Hardigan. Hardigan to Nimmo. Nimmo towards Saltmarsh. Saltmarsh now in towards the centre. Milroy gets under the ball. Failed to take the mark. It comes out wide to Curran. Curran's in the van, but traps it now before it... No, he didn't. Quite before it got to the boundary. Throw in on the centre wing position on the outer side of the ground. Ruckman moving up, and it's Annanson going in with Milroy. Milroy from the side gets the knockout. Don't knocks it further afield, but Swan gains possession, can't get away. Picked up by Annanson. Annanson back into little Bayer. Nearly kicked his opponent in the kneecap then, but the umpire has blown the whistle and has elected to ball it up. Right on the VFA emblem out there on the ground. And here we go. Milroy getting in front, but it's Annanson coming in behind. Gets over the shoulder of Milroy, and Milroy will get the benefit of a free kick. Lead's being made across here by the little fellow in Westham. Comes over to him, but he couldn't take the mark. It comes down here towards Halbert. He couldn't trap the ball. Moving in is Johnson. Gains possession now for Port. He plays it towards Allender, and Allender moves in rather quickly to take that mark. He's about to take off. Oh, push down to the ground there. All right. Here it goes on its way now up to O'Reilly. O'Reilly with a hand pass towards Cook. Cook goes for the ball, but down they go, and it could be a free to O'Reilly, who looks as though he's out to it. Beattie was the player he clashed with, and Grant O'Reilly has most certainly been winded. And look at the players move in here, just wide of this. A few angry words being spoken, the umpire's coming in, but you've got what the coach has said again there.
Well, Colin Kinnear made the point. He said, I don't want any fighting, I don't want any packs to develop. He said, just stay right away from that sort of business, because he said it won't help our game.
Neither side want to fall into that, as we have Fred Cook out there with the ball.
When I say our game, I mean Coburg's game.
Right. And Cook standing there, just waiting for all the fuss to die down. He's kicked 1 goal, 2 towards the lake end. He's kicking with this shot on a very acute angle. And listen to the Coburg supporters as he puts it on its way. He kept it too high, I think, and he's put it through for one behind. So Port Melbourne now move on to 1-4, 10 points. The Coburg's 3 goals, 5 behinds, 23 points at the 4-minute mark. Kick off by Hartigan this time. Keeps it low towards the half-back line. Saltmarsh comes into it. He moves away now with his kick towards centre half-back, and there's Goss waiting for it, and he takes an effortless mark at centre half-forward. So Paul Goss with his kick, looking for Cook again. Oh, and stretching out is Milroy. Well, there's plenty of him to fall into a ball there, Ted.
Well, it certainly is, but I couldn't understand Goss placing the ball where he did then, Phil.
Milroy with his 5th kick towards centre half-back, and moving up is Collins. He can't take the mark. Comes down towards Annanson, who gets it across to Bryce. Bryce now with his kick towards the centre forward zone. A stack of players in there. Cook juggling the ball. Fails to take the mark. They're being pushed into the ground pretty hard at the moment as it comes wide. Moving in is Jimmy Christo, but it's forced out to the boundary line, and it'll be the boundary umpire who'll put it back in. He didn't like the little bit of a shove he may have received then either. As it's down on the forward line for Port Melbourne, Bill Jacobs.
Well, the simple fact of the matter is that for most of the time, Coburg are leading in the race for the ball, but this time it's a Bayer getting it away and putting it on its way, hit the post again. 1 point, hit the post. Port Melbourne 1-5-11, Coburg 3-5-23. Coburg are definitely leading in the race for the ball, and they are tackling fiercely and upsetting the Port Melbourne smaller players who are unable to break away. There it is out to the centre wing position or out to the half-forward line. That's Curran, who will be breaking away from half-back for Coburg, taking it out of the back line up towards the centre of the ground, knocked away from Johnston. He'll recover quickly. And they're moving a bit slowly, Port Melbourne. Johnson was slow when he took it away then, but he's got it to the half-forward line. A chance here for Allender. Allender around at centre half-forward, whipping it up to the forward line towards Cook. Cook's in trouble. That's holding the ball. That's what the umpire thought too. And Hartigan taking it away across to the outer side to Burt. Burt's at half-back flank. Quickly gets it to centre wing. Leading in the race for the ball is Don't, who's having a ball in the centre. And he comes up to the half-forward line, bringing it up to the Fitzroy Street end to Douglas, who's a nuisance. Douglas back to Westcombe. Westcombe racing towards an open goal. And he's hit the behind post. It's out of bounds. Well, that's as good a passage of football as we've seen today, the way Coburg brought it out of the back line and up to their forward spot. Short kicking there's not going to do them much good. That's Smith pouncing on the ball, and he's been tripped. Port Melbourne are rattled. Port Melbourne are rattled, and they're showing it.
Being put under a lot of pressure out there, Bill, and they're not coming up too well in my book.
When an incident like that happens, the players are rattled, stretching, tripping, and Smith, if he'd been accurate, would have kicked 3 by now. He's kicked 1. Coburg 3-5 have had 8 scoring shots. Port Melbourne 6, and this is Smith lining them up, not far away from the line as you can see, right across the face of goals, and out of bounds on the full. Now, is Halbert going to claim the mark? I'd like to see this. Definitely out of bounds, and the free kick, the penalty free kick, will go to Port Melbourne. And they come out of the back line with Christo getting it up toward, looking for Wilkinson there, who's able to be punched away by Cameron. Swan tackle, there's that fierce tackling of Coburg's again, and Port Melbourne will get out of it with a free kick to Wilkinson. We've come to the 8-minute mark into the term, and Port on 1-5, trail Coburg 3-5. Wilkinson out of the back line to the centre wing position, and it's against you, O'Reilly, I think. Against O'Reilly of Port Melbourne.
That was quite obvious, Bill.
And it'll be Saltmarsh to take the kick for Coburg. Coburg booting it into attack. Up towards centre half forward. Beyond there, Collins leading in the race for the ball. And they all take it over the line. There'll be throw in the forward pocket. A throw in the right forward pocket for Coburg. And they're attacking up to the Fitzroy Street end of the ground. It's 3-5 to 1-5. Coburg leading on the Olympic Tyre scoreboard. Anderson stretching in there as his nickname. Dermott a bit further, across to Jim Christo, out of bounds, free kick to Coburg. A free kick to Coburg in their right forward pocket. And it's Terry Don't, the centre man, number 6, getting it under control. And the umpire's going to make him kick over the mark. And that's Wilkinson of Port Melbourne standing the mark, and in close attendance the umpire. 3 goals, 5 Coburg, 1 goal, 5 Port Melbourne. A low-scoring affair thus far. 9 minutes into the second quarter of the grand final of 1980. At the back was Annanson. Everyone had a touch. Annanson handballs it out of the pack across towards the line. Herbert in hot pursuit. Pursuing him is Johnston. Cleary's in there. And the umpire has found a free kick to Coburg. It's to be taken by Herbert right on the boundary line, as you can see. Coburg kicking through Herbert on this occasion up to the Fitzroy Street end of the Junction Oval. He swung it in beautifully. There's a chance this. It's a goal. That's a beautiful goal to Coburg.
The new Coburg, and Laurie Bird has gone off, not sitting on the bench but gone into the room, so he could be injured.
Right now it kicks out towards Saltmarsh, is it? Beattie, and Beattie towards the half-back line. Curran came into it. Annanson battling away with Curran, neither getting the advantage, and it will be a ball up according to umpire Roy Groom. Well, the pressure's right on the Port Melbourne side at the moment. Coburg doing it well, and they have since the first half minute of the game, and they're getting the benefit of the freeze too. Little Abaya tried to get it away, but he's not breaking away from the packs really well, and the umpire has picked a free kick out of this, and it will be taken by Curran. Curran, no hand passes to Collins. Collins now up towards the half-forward line. Douglas went up, got his hands to it. There he is, being brought down to the ground, and umpire Vergona comes in blowing the whistle and says holding the ball, and the free kick will be taken for Port Melbourne by Peter Hall. There's been 21 to 12 free kicks, Ian.
Coburg have had 21 free kicks, Port Melbourne 12.
And now it goes wide of the centre of the ground. Up they go. Annanson gets it down to Evans. Evans tried to break away. Nearly got caught holding the ball. Terry Don't gets a hand pass into Curran. Curran now around the wing, but it will be out on the full. And the free kick should be taken by Stephen Allender, I think, who's moved over there onto the boundary line, or John Christo. Christo comes back with the ball. Just a reminder, in seeing that Dandy Dollar sign, that the world's richest foot race will be on at half-time, the Dandy Dollar Dash, and also there'll be a parachute jump by the Bayside Jump Company. Now Hartigan gains possession after that kick. He sends it towards centre half forward. Crossed down to the ground by Dermott, who had his leg pulled, and he should get the free. Yes, the umpire is indicating just that. Against Halsall, who's probably been one of the best players on the ground today.
Well, Dermott's been a very good player for Port Melbourne on that half-back line.
I'm talking about Halbert when I say probably the best player on the ground, not Halsall. He's just come on. There it comes out towards the centre of the ground, and this is John Christo who moves into it. Christo battling away with Halbert this time. Hand pass this time to Halsall. Halsall back here towards Wescombe. Wescombe back in the direction of Halsall, who comes in towards goal. It's on its way, and it could be a goal. The umpire indicates one behind. The way he moved then, and I'm talking about the goal umpire, he moved right across to this side that indicated the ball had a good direction towards him. But there's a short pass, a bad one. And I can hear the Port Melbourne bench issuing a few blasphemies there as these players do this type of thing. Robert Smith had the chance to move in but couldn't quite get in there before it's gone through for another behind. And so we see Coburg, 4 goals, 7. Port Melbourne, 1 goal, 6. Rob.
Yes, it's interesting with Halsall. Ian Gibbs, who was just telling me that Halsall came on something like 10 minutes into the last quarter, and he had 9 kicks in a matter of, well, just a few minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how he fires up Coburg, who at the moment are really fired up. Going in for the ball is Goss, but getting the front position is Hartigan. He gets a handball across to Nimmo. Nimmo handballs to his teammate in Halsall. Halsall, the bloke we were talking about, into the full forward position, almost a good mark to Johnson. It comes down to Christo, and it's John Christo who goes out there and gets the pressure off Port Melbourne for a moment. Across to Jim Christo, and now it's Port Melbourne who will put the pressure on Coburg. He weaves his way around an opponent, almost runs into trouble there. There's his kick across to Wilkinson, who leads out beautifully. O'Reilly all by himself there, but obviously Wilkinson didn't see him. He'll be about 55, 60 metres out from goal, kicking into the breeze, but it stayed right up there, right into the teeth of goal, and forced through off the pack for 1 behind only. Port Melbourne, 1 goal, 7. 13, Coburg 4-7, 31, and Buster Harland looked like he could be coming on, Phil.
Things could liven up, Rob.
Yes, well, there's no doubt about that. The mighty Burrows doing battle with the Lions, and it's Allender out there on the half-forward flank position. His kick goes into the Port. No, the umpire has said there's an infringement there. Cleary obviously running over the mark, and Allender now will move 15 metres closer to goal. Port Melbourne have kicked 5 straight points so far this quarter. Ted.
Evans, a player coming off for Port Melbourne, and Harland, you see there in your picture, going on.
Allender now kicking right into that gusty breeze that's blowing down there. There's the kick. He keeps it low, going very close to the teeth of goal. A big pack of players go up. Play on, says the umpire. Players desperately throwing themselves at the ball. The umpire will call for the ball and bounce it right in the goal square. We're just on the 15-minute mark of the second quarter of the grand final in First Division. There's the bounce by Roy Groom. Players going up high, and it's Anderson who gets it back to Freddie Cook. Oh, he must it on this occasion. Grabbed there. Play on, says the umpire. Players throwing themselves hard at the ball, and another throw-up will be effected. One kick, one snapshot would mean another score for Port Melbourne. It's only 10 metres out. There's the bounce. Players going up high. They force it through. 4 are behind, and that will get Coburg out of trouble.
Rob, it's interesting the fact that Port Melbourne have not kicked a goal for 45 minutes. You remember they got their first goal within 25 seconds, and here we are 16 minutes into the second quarter, and they've still got that solitary 1 goal on the board.
Thank you, Ted. Ian Gibbs, our statistician, keeping the statistics here today, and as he has right throughout the year. The ball on the outer wing position, going up to the mark is Dermott, and he takes a good mark. Right on the wing position. Decides to keep the ball low, going very close and getting up high for Coburg is Curran. Laurie Curran elects to go to the other side of the ground, which are the instructions today. All big pack of players going up. They force the ball down, gives Douglas the opportunity, but he comes through. Gee, taking his time there too, and he's caught. Down he'll go, but it's over the line and out of bounds. The outer forward pocket position for Coburg. There's the throw in now. Big pack of players set themselves. Getting the front position is Nimmo, but he can't get the ball. Coming in now is Buster Harlan, the interchange player who's on, and there's his kick now. Going down across the wing position. Going up high is Allender trying to take the ball, and O'Reilly, but it's forced over the line and out of bounds.
Port Melbourne being frustrated at every move out there, Rob, and even their aerial players are not functioning.
Well, they're certainly surprising me. I think there's a big portion of this crowd who are surprised too by that scoreboard. Coburg 4 goals, 7-31, comfortably leading Port Melbourne at this stage, who've kicked inaccurately 1-8-14. There's the kick going down to the scoring zone for Port Melbourne, but it's Coburg through Curran who tries to get possession of the ball. A Bayer now comes in for Port Melbourne. He'll run round his opponent. There's his kick across to teammate all by himself is John Christo, and Christo is marked. He's on a 45-degree angle, would be 50 metres out from goal. Yes, all the way from the back pocket, as Ted said, and he's got plenty of space there, plenty of daylight to kick to. There's the kick. It's moving across the face of goal, right into the pack. Anderson's there. He can't take the ball, and it's over the line and out of bounds. Only about a metre around from the point post, the scoring zone for Port Melbourne.
OK, Rob, and we're just waiting now for it to come back into play, and there they go. Anderson tried for the knockout, but it goes to Halbert. Halbert up towards the half-back line. They fly. No one can take it. Douglas came in, tried to break away with the ball, scooped along by Allender. He gets it towards Wilkinson. Wilkinson out at centre forward. Up they fly in the air. Still no one able to take a mark down here. Look at them go down to the ground. The umpire blows the whistle. Then there will be a free kick awarded, and it'll be taken by Milroy. Milroy playing a different game today for Coburg. So also is Robert Smith. Goes towards the centre half-back zone. That's Collins coming in, passes across to Westcombe. Westcombe trying to move away from Swan. He's brought down to the ground, but eventually it comes up to Herbert. Herbert has Terry Don't out here in his own. It bounced a bit high for Don't. He's got the pace. Can he get to the ball? No, chipping in front of him was Dermott, but it's Don't who gains possession. He passes out wide towards Halsall. Halsall can't break away. A push in the back, and the free kick will be taken by Johnson. Johnson of Port Melbourne can see Gary Bryce out here on the flank. He doesn't give Bryce much chance as he kicked it wide of him, but Bryce gains possession. He plays it around the wing position on the stand side of the ground. Up they fly for it, and will pay the mark here to Cameron of Coburg. So Cameron now from the centre wing gets it on its way across towards centre half forward. Wilkinson came around but forced down to the ground by the Coburg player. It's Goss who kicked it into the man on the running across him there, and it'll be Vagona who'll come in for the ball up. Terry Don't looking a bit tired as he tries to drag himself up off the ground. But Coburg 4-7-31, Port Melbourne 1-8-14, and we've been playing 19 and a half minutes into the second quarter. A very low-scoring match to this stage. Milroy got bumped there by Allender as he tried to get the knockout. The umpire getting a free kick out of this to Don't, and Don't races away very quickly. Grabbed as he tried to kick the ball. Wescombe taps it on. Go Wescombe, over the top he goes, and the free kick must be awarded Port Melbourne's way. And getting up holding the cranium is Dermott to take the free. So Dermott now, from this half-back line, moves into it. Place it in to the centre, and the big fellow Anderson there to take the mark. He's got his kick on its way, but it's a shocking kick out to the flank. And there it bounces back in. It didn't go out. And we see the hand pass coming from Curran. He gets it further downfield. And it's Hartigan who plays it across field to Nimmo. And Nimmo comes in to take the mark. Grabbed very quickly this time by Stephen Allender. A little bit of a wrestle going on. They're not going out for the night as we see Nimmo will go back to prepare for the kick. And there it is on its way. Comes to Saltmarsh. Saltmarsh short of the centre will get grabbed by the big fellow Anderson. Anderson still battling on. And it coming through here is Buster Harlan. Harlan with a hand pass. Doesn't come off. Look at them go in hard down here as umpire Roy Graham indicates the free kick to Port Melbourne. It's Jim Christo to receive the free at the 21-minute mark, Bill.
Port Melbourne are simply not picking up. They're playing badly, Port. They're not being positive at all about their game. It's up on their half-forward line now, but thumped away easily. I can imagine a few of the match committee having something to say at half-time because it's a bad Port Melbourne display. That's Goss on the Halsell leading in the race for the ball, close to the line. Goss puts in well. Might have been a free kick to Port. Play on as the call, and Port will go away from the centre wing position up towards centre half forward to find O'Reilly. O'Reilly's going to play on. He's got the lead up from Cook. Smothered at the back by Beattie. Cook trying to get into the game and couldn't. And there it is. Coburg a 4-7 leading Port 1-8. 31-14. 22 minutes into the term, and Port frustrated and fighting hard to get back into the game, but they can't get the flow into their football. And there's the bounce in front of their goal. What a great shot that one was too. Halbert, he has put it through. At long last, a goal to Port Melbourne. It took exactly 52 minutes between the time of Port Melbourne's first goal and their second goal. 52 minutes, and here it comes back into play. Across to the centre of the ground again. Cameron relieving. Swan coming in through the centre. Port looking better now. Swan a kick into the forward line. And Cook, he got the right cross and took the mark.
And that could be the Gillette mark of the day. 23 minutes into the second quarter, taken by Fred Cook. He lines them up, Bill.
There's his look at the goals. He's kicked 1 goal 3. And there's what he's looking at as he kicks to the lake end of the ground, and he's put it on its way, but it's offline again for another point. Wing position on the grandstand side. It's 11 scoring shots apiece and 10 points of difference favouring Coburg, and Halbert puts it over the line.
And now here's a report from Rob Asprey.
Well, the good news on the Coburg bench, Phil, is that Laurie Burt is not as bad as we first thought. He's in the dressing rooms at the moment. The doctors told me he is having some attention. He received a blow to the head, apparently, but he's having a rest and will be out, hopefully, in about 5 minutes' time.
That was Halsell kicking it out of the centre of the pack over forward. Swan running under the ball, so is Don't. Abaya too short for that issue. Into the half-back line, and Port will come away. It was good football by O'Neill, and Coburg playing pretty vigorously. That's Wescombe. Wescombe getting handball into the forward line. Halsell now, tackled by O'Neill by Hall. Halsell breaks the tackles. Plenty of rugged work in there, but he got it well to Collins. And Collins long first for a goal, and he's put it through for a goal to Coburg. And they're 5-7 to 2-9.
It's a knockout from the ruck that goes to Collins. Collins gets it back upfield, but coming in defence is Peter Hall of Port Melbourne. Now Peter Hall from short of the centre has the ball touched, so he puts it on its way. It comes through to Christo. Christo had trouble handling it. Swan gets the kick in, but not a good one. And it's tapped down to the ground by Hartigan. Moving in here is Buster Harland. Harland, who figured in a goal earlier, sends it up towards the right forward pocket. Cook moves out towards it. Props waiting to get the push in the back for the free, but passes it back towards Goss. Goss couldn't quite get in there, and it's all Coburg at the moment. Hartigan gets the hand pass in. It goes to Curran. Curran towards the wing. On the other side of the ground, Douglas moving across there, but it's beaten him over the line. That reminds me that the Dandy Dollar Dash, the world's richest foot race, will be on at half-time. Sash to be presented by Bob Hawke today. And look at this. It's gone straight into the hands of Halsell. Halsell going right downfield. Oh, went too far. Tried to do too much. And the the umpire has indicated a push in the back.
No way. He dragged him to the ground, Phil. He caught him well. He tackled very well then, and he pulled him to the ground.
Here's the replay of it, and you can't miss this. Now, have another look at it.
A good tackle.
What do you reckon, Bill?
Holding the ball, gone like a robber's dog.
Well, they were robbed, all right. Anyway, Coburg are still doing it well. They're the better side to this stage. Halsall puts it on its way. It's offline. And a behind. And again, we talk about justice, because Coburg have moved on to 5 goals, 8, 38. Port Melbourne, 2 goals, 9, 21 at the 27-minute mark into the second term. On the kick-off towards the half-back line, players go in for it. Umpire Bagona indicates a push in the back, and the free kick will be taken by Peter Hall of Port Melbourne. So we need a big kick from Peter Hall to get it into the centre of the ground. Players move under it, and that's Gary Bryce, the captain and coach of Port Melbourne, to take the mark. Bryce, with his third kick, puts it up towards the half-forward line, and it's Curran moving in now towards the boundary line. Halsall moves across, can't get to it after being tackled, but beats both players. That's Halsall and John Christo over the line. Right in front of the Port Melbourne race. There's Aki out there, the runner of the Port Melbourne side, probably running for the last time in a grand final for Port Melbourne. He's indicated he will retire at the end of this year. Cleary gets it. He passes back to Hall. Hall now wards off his opponent, sends it towards the half-forward line, and moving in is Curran. Throwing the ball, says the umpire, and the free kick will be taken by Harlan, who's very quick to move away with the ball. Harlan with a beautiful long kick downfield. Look at the battle here between the full-back and full-forward. Bounces back to Cook. Cook tried the hand pass. Could have been holding the man down there as O'Reilly scoops it back towards Cook. Desperate football. That was throwing the ball. There's no doubt about that. And the umpire's given the free kick to Coburg. Hand pass then from Saltmarsh goes wide. Out towards Hartigan. Hartigan up towards the half-back line. Players move into it, but it moves over their heads and over the line and out of bounds. Bill.
Well, if you didn't know better, you'd be wondering about the performance of some of the Port Melbourne players who are not putting in and who will have a word or two said to them at half-time. Of that, I'm sure. There's the ball coming back into play. Allender trying to get into the game, number 6, and bursting through there is Herbert, coming away with the ball and bringing it over towards centre half-back. Ebeyer too short, punched away by Cameron. A chance for Bryce, who's yet to get in the game. And at half-time scores in the grand final, Coburg 5 goals, 8, 38, and Port Melbourne 2-9, 21.
Well, at the moment we're seeing a good exhibition of football by the Coburg side. Port Melbourne are down at the present time, not being able to get right into the game. They're being hassled and harried by the Coburg team. Coburg are playing above what they have in the last few weeks against Port Melbourne. They're still doing it in great style. Bill Jacobs.
Well, as I said early, the betting before the game was 4-1 Coburg, and you'd like a little bit of that, I'm sure. Coburg have done it well. They've tackled hard. They've put themselves in front all the time, and it's a dispirited Port Melbourne, a dispirited-looking Port Melbourne that's coming off the ground. Coburg have led in the race for the ball, but I think the key to it has been their very fierce tackling. They haven't let Port develop their flow-on game at all, and their lead of 17 points at half-time is thoroughly deserved, and Port have got to pull a lot out of the bag to get back into this game.
Ken Henry.
I think Port Melbourne got carried away by those odds being offered by for Coburg today, Phil, because they've been playing with an air of overconfidence. It's been their undoing so far in this first half. As Bill said, Coburg, they're tackling so well. They're putting Port Melbourne players under pressure that Port haven't been put under for many, many weeks. And Coburg are doing it well. They've still got too much pace for Port Melbourne, and the Port Melbourne big guns are definitely not firing. There's no doubt it's Coburg's match so far.
Yes, Coburg are out of their form lapse. I think that's the way we can put it. And they're playing back to their form that they displayed for 2/3 of the season. Ian, the statistics on the game.
A very inaccurate quarter there for Port Melbourne. They kicked 1 goal 7, Coburg 2 goals 3. For Coburg kick getters, Helbert, not a good quarter in that quarter. He's had 13 kicks to date, only 1 in that quarter. Curran playing well in defence with 7. Milroy not only rucking well but picking up kicks around the ground. He's had 6 kicks. Hartigan strong in defence with 7. Port Melbourne kick getters, Wilkinson 6, Ebeyer 7, and Johnson playing well across the half-back line with 6 kicks. Goal kickers for Coburg, 1 each to Smith, Cleary, Don't, Herbert and Collins. And for Port Melbourne, 1 to Fred Cook and 1 to Ebeyer.